yards. He was wide open.
After the turnover.
He's got a man.
Harper going deep. Caught.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to week 5, Purdue week, right after that kind of frustrating overtime loss to Illinois. And the question I've been hearing a lot throughout the week is there trouble in Husker land? You know, is it time to panic? You know, basically what everyone's asking. And so I want to go over that a little bit and kind of give a reason why I feel like it's not the same old story, but it is the same old story, if you know what I mean. Because the one thing I've said, and I've said this last year, and I even said it for this year about them winning 8 games. I had them at 8-4. And I said, and I said it last year as well, and you saw that was the truth. Because I told everybody the biggest and toughest win is going to be win number 6. Because 6 is the bowl. Haven't done that in 8 years. And there's a lot of veterans on this team. And with these veterans comes a couple of things. Experience and knowledge that they've learned from multiple coaches, which is the plus. But the negative is the losing. They've dealt with so much losing in their 4 or 5, some of them 6 years. And I've always said this, losing is addictive. You got to know how to win and you got to know how to lose. And learning how to win is you learning how to do that. And learning how to lose doesn't mean you realistically went out and learned it. It's just small things, the little things that you do that you haven't corrected that keep coming back in certain situations. And everybody might think some of the things, and some of the players might think some of the things that Coach Rule does in his day-to-day running the program might seem a little ridiculous, you know, from signing in to practice, some of the little things that you got to do, coming together and being in the dorms, you know, the little things that he does even on the off seasons. That's him trying to teach the little things. It's the little things that matter. When you could like get to class on time, get to the meeting in time, sign in when you're supposed to. The little things that for a lot of people might mean nothing means a lot, because when you start doing that, then the little things during the game come natural to the point you don't make the mistakes. And I'll give you an example. Rule made the remark about how Dylan Raiola and how he played, and Dylan played to win. Dylan was having fun out there. And then you have players, and a lot of them are veteran players, that maybe not knowingly start going back into habits and trying to do a little too much instead of their job. That's where they were talking about doing your 111. Don't try to be doing something else. When you see something, do what you are supposed to do. If everybody takes care of themselves on the team, you have a winning team. And this is how I could tell you how you learn how to win, just like you learn how to lose. And if everybody, or the ones that are old enough like me and some of you that are watching, that remember Nebraska back when they won consistently, and especially in the 90s when they really had winning down. Let's go back to that 1997 Missouri game. You guys remember that one? What was kept us on his toes? Missouri was probably 18-point underdogs at least. If I don't remember it, but I guarantee you. And they really had no business hanging in there with Nebraska, but they did. It was at Missouri. It was in Columbia, and it was back and forth, to the point you saw at the end, the miraculous catch that we hear about. Maybe you've seen, and I saw live, but you saw that was an example of a team that knows how to win. because realistically, Nebraska might have had no reason the way it turned out, the way they were playing, and the way Missouri, really outplayed them in a lot of ways. And you kind of saw what you saw here. And you saw a team like Nebraska knew how to win. They had confidence in winning. They're out there, and that miraculous catch that took it to overtime, and then took the ball, kind of what you just saw here. I think in 2 plays, I believe it was only 2 plays. It might have been three. And Frost's big 15-yard touchdown run that took the lead in overtime, and then in basically dramatic fashion, the defense on a game where the defense was not really showing up very much at all, shined, had a sack on the 4th down to seal that victory and win that game. And it's kind of like what you saw here, because Missouri wasn't really a winning program then. So it's the little things, I think, when it's close, because you got to remember Nebraska hasn't had any winning, or excuse me, any close games this year from the beginning. This was their closest one, and you probably had players, mainly if they wasn't, consciously thinking about it, started going into this because of how tight it is, and starting doing a little more things, or trying to do a little more things that they shouldn't have been doing. And I'll give you an example. When they put you in a formation and then they put a man in motion, and you're on man to man, and then you have to pass it off. You started thinking, do I, is someone going to pick him up? Do you start, you got your eyes in the back when you see something that you react to and don't want it to come back again, and your man that you're supposed to be in is now wide open in the end zone. Little things. It's just a small thing. That's why your rules say just do your 111. Just do the job. If you do your job and everybody does that, then there shouldn't be a problem. So I do not think we're in trouble, but don't get me wrong, it's not going to be fixed overnight. This is a process, and Rule's still in this process, and it's a mindset. And he's got to kind of teach him that championship caliber of play, if you know what I mean. Because we're going to have more close games. All right. So if you kind of look at the schedule again, and if I jump in here and let me try to pull, and I want everybody to look at this. And if you kind of look at this, and let me clear this out so you could see what I'm seeing, and I'm going to make this a little bigger. So if you see Nebraska's schedule, and if you kind of look at it the way we looked at it at the beginning of the year, we were actually thinking these first 7 games. A lot of people thought they'd go 7-0. I even had them probably going 6-1, and I had them losing to Rutgers. And if you look at it now, if we're going to look at it on 4 weeks in and how everyone is playing in the Big Ten, let's look at it now. What you think? Well, right now, Purdue should, and I'll get to that, but should be a win, maybe a get right win. And then you got Rutgers coming in. Rutgers is just what we thought it'd be. They're unbeaten and can easily be coming unbeaten coming into Lincoln next week, and which would probably be, they'll probably be ranked. And I doubt very much Nebraska will be ranked. I think they fell to around 30th or 33rd. And depending how they play with Purdue, I doubt very much they're going to jump back up in there. But you got to think they're going to be unbeaten. And then you have Indiana right behind them, which we actually thought would probably struggle. That is now might be playing the best out of all these teams on the first 7 games, and is going to be ranked. And again, could be easily unbeaten coming in Lincoln. So now when you were thinking, oh, they could go 7-0 or 6-1, you could see now, after losing to Illinois, they could easily lose to Rutgers. And then they do get a bye, but then they go at Indiana, at Bloomington, and it could lose that one. and be going into the Ohio State game 4-3, which most likely that's probably a loss. So they could end up. How much frustrating can you be if you're going to turn around now at 3-0? They might end up being 4-4 headed to UCLA. It's very, very possible now because this schedule now looks a whole lot different than what it looked when we first took to look at it at the beginning of the season. Now, if we keep going on, I think UCLA is what we thought they'd be, which I feel like Nebraska could still win that game and should win this game. USC is probably better than we thought. Their defense, it was their defense we were worried about, and their defense has done very well. But the one thing I think we've shined a little more on is our offense. Dylan, as much as we knew good and well, as much as we knew that Dylan was going to be good and great, and like I've always said for the last year or so, he's not your typical freshman. And I guess now some of you guys are believing when I kept saying that in almost every video, he's not your typical freshman, and he's proven it. And I know someone said because I said he's going to shine in that Illinois game line, and someone sent me a message going, "See, he didn't shine. See you," and I'm going, "I think you're wrong. I think he did. Yes, he had a couple mistakes. He dropped a couple balls uh, that he jumped on, and he did miss a wide open Linden Meyer by a couple feet, which again, I didn't say he was going to be perfect, but you take that away, he shined in that game. He threw for what 295 yards. I think he still threw for 72%. And if you just go back and look at the ball, the touchdown to Nair that got taken away, overturned, let's put it that way, as an interception. And most likely they were probably right. I still thought there wasn't enough there to overturn it since it was called a touchdown on the field. Just like if they would have called it an interception on the field, there wouldn't have been enough to overturn it the other way. Because once he had control and came down, it's hard to tell what happens with the angle of the cameras and the bodies of people. So I didn't think there was enough, but they did it. It's over with. If you go back to the pass interference that wasn't called on Nair in the end zone, that was blatantly pass interference. So now that the Big Ten has come out and told Nebraska and them that they missed that call, which I was always frustrated when they say they miss it. How do you miss it when they're the only two down there? That's where the ball is. That's where 90,000 plus you're doing your job or looking at. I don't see how you miss that. It's kind of like that. If y'all remember in '98, the face mask on Eric Crouch with Kansas State that basically ripped his head off. And how do you miss that one? I don't know unless you're looking at the big titty girl in the stands instead of watching what you're supposed to be doing. I never understood that. But you know what? That's not the only thing that the referees miss. So it's not their fault. I always say that it's never one reason why something and you lose the game. It's never one reason. It's like anything in life. I'm actually a private pilot and I fly. And a lot of your air disasters, if you ever watch, it's never one thing. It's always a multiple of things that come together that happen. And that's the same way when you kind of lose a game like that. It was multiple things, how they played on defense, maybe some of the calls and all that. The breaks, just overthrowing Lindenmeyer that would have been made Dylan look like a superstar if that was caught. And then look at the field goal. I don't want to say it's a chip shot field goal. I couldn't hit that field goal, but it's probably a field goal that should have been made. And I know they say, hey, the numbers say kick it. Well, the numbers don't take in consideration. You got a very true freshman kicker that's coming in, kicking the first time in the first game in a situation that's going to win the game. And the only kick he's now done is basically an extra point earlier. So your book that you say, hey, the book says kick the field goal. So why not line it up, take two downs, and try to get the first down and get a little closer, make that field goal a little bit easier and put it in a spot where he's the most comfortable. Every kicker has their choice of where they want to be on the left hash or the right hash. And on top of that, remember there was about 3.5 minutes still left there. So on top of that, you're running more clock down. So that's kind of what I thought about. But you put all that together, and then what happens? All that put together, and Nebraska still lost in overtime on a game that all of us know they could have easily won that game. And as well as Illinois played, and if you're being honest with yourself, Illinois played a tremendous game to me. They had a good game plan and accomplished what they wanted to do. And take all that in consideration, Nebraska could have easily won. If you look at it, Nebraska left probably 18 points I know of. The pass interference that didn't get called, that drive there, that ended up being a field goal. So instead of 3, that little chip shot field goal we had, instead of 3, or instead of 7, we got 3. So there's 4 points we missed. Then you take the touchdown that they overturned on the interception, there's another 7. And then the Lindenmeyer just missed another 7. So there's 18 points I could count. And just think about that. It's a totally different ball game. And then you're looking at, wow, we're all talking differently. The problems we had were still there, but we're all looking at it now as, oh wow, man, we could go unbeaten. We could make playoffs. That's what we've been hearing. But yet you still have some of these issues. They just seem to be magnified when you lose the game. And as much as we went through some losing the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, it's not hard for anyone to start thinking. And if you guys are thinking it, I'm thinking it, you're thinking it, man, you know, these 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids got to be thinking it, mainly ones that been there for every single one of these. So it's not something that's just thrown away and forgot about. So I know Rule is doing what he needs to do. He's doing the little things in practice that we might not see. And so there's little things you got to get together. And I thought they were out coached as well. So it's not just all on the players. And so I want everybody to look at that and think of that. USC is one of those, and Nebraska struggles against mobile quarterbacks. So everybody's saying there's no way they're going to beat USC. And most likely, being in Los Angeles, you probably might not win that one. But that is a game with a quarterback that's more of a pocket passing quarterback. Doesn't mean he can't move and run. Nowadays, almost everyone can. But he's fits more the style for Nebraska's defense. And so don't get me wrong, I feel like Nebraska could win that game, and Nebraska's offense is playing a lot better. That's more experience for Dylan as he goes down there. So that's not a game I'm going to mark off as a loss. Okay? So you could beat UCLA, that puts you at 5. But I think you definitely could beat Wisconsin, and that you could now beat Iowa. They're not what we thought they'd be. So even then you got 5, 6, 7 wins right there, and for some reason you upset USC. You got your 8-4 like I was talking about. So I still see 7 at probably 7 wins and maybe 8 pull out. So don't get too down on yourself if now all of a sudden they lose to Rutgers and they're 4-2, and then they lose to Indiana and they're 4-3, and then they go lose to Ohio State and they're 4-4. Trying to, and I've got to tell myself that too. I'd be just with you guys. It ain't just you. It's possible, but the good news is it's possible for them to win all of them, besides probably Ohio State, or at least one or two of them. And then, like I said, I think UCLA being at home also is probably a win. USC again, like I said, it's going to be a close game. So somewhere down the road, what we need them to do is win a close game. And maybe they could do it. And I wouldn't care if it was Purdue, but I'd rather not be Purdue. I'd rather be like Rutgers, because Rutgers, you're expecting it to be close. If that's something, because I feel like if the defense could play their portion, I think if you gave it to the point where Nebraska needs I don't know about a field goal, but if they need a score, Dylan to me is proven, and we've seen it on the 2-minute drives at the end of each half. He's proven that he could do it, and he's got the right mindset to do it, and he's just out there having fun. And I think that's why you saw Rule and Tony White and them kind of call out team, going, you know, you should be playing like the freshman, mainly about how he's playing, not like he's better than them. It's like he's out there having fun. He's out there playing to win. Doesn't mean he's not going to make any mistakes. Don't worry about trying to make mistakes. Just do what you're supposed to do. If you just do that, we'll be fine. And I think that's what Rule and them's trying to tell him. So again, I see now Still probably the same, probably not the same 7 or 8 wins we were thinking about at the beginning of the year, but I still think we're still gonna see 7 or 8 wins. And if you go back now and kinda look, what do we think now about Purdue? What do we think now about how good is Purdue? Because Purdue has done really well. One thing I did wanna show you guys that Nebraska's probably not doing as bad as you think is the PFF scores. And you could see that right here, this is what I was kind of saying about veterans and all that that's went through what they went through, and they're still trying to learn how to do what to do in the situation, pull out that win. Not that they don't know what to do. Don't think it's that way. It's little things that you do, your mind starts doing, and you're just trying to do, to me, a little too much, and then you end up making a mistake or not being where you should have been, or you got two people doing the same thing because you both might have thought the same thing, and then or the person that was supposed to do what he was supposed to do covers it, takes it, but you're thinking, oh no, someone's going to miss that. So that's why you hear rules say just do your job, do your 111. There's 11 players on the field. If each one do what you're supposed to do, if each one of you do what you are supposed to do, then we'll be fine. The play will be made. Someone will be out there covering that big guy that went out there all by himself. That happened 3 or 4 times in the game, and for some reason can't get it. And don't get me wrong, you're going to see it again. You're going to see it a lot until Nebraska says and shows everybody, hey, yeah, we could stop this. Yeah, try that again. We got this covered. To the point maybe the next time we're out there and it's picked. So, but if you look at the PFF scores, and this is for Nebraska's offense, right off the bat for the 4 games, look at your top 4 offensive PFF, the top players for the offense: Carter Nelson, Ja'Cory Barney Jr., Dylan Raiola, and even Brock Knutson, all top 4 freshmen, all top 4 true freshmen. See what I mean? And if you look at it, and even Gunner, and I understand Gunner's only played in a couple games, but to me, that's the reason why. So you got some freshmen on here that are just going out there having fun. They're getting to play. You could tell Barney's having fun. He's having fun every time he's out there. Dylan's having fun. They're just going out there and just that's one thing about being a freshman, especially someone like Ja'Cory Barney, and they're still learning. You're just going out there and using your God gifted talent that you have and playing like you've always played, ever probably since Pop Warner. Now, if you ever wondered why, I always like to see Emmett Johnson play a little more. And if you look right here on the pass blocking, Emmett's a 10.4. And even if you look at Dante Dowdell, he's a 22.5. But if you look at Ramir Johnson, he's an 83.4. And that's why you see Ramir in there a lot, mainly during passing downs. The problem is the other team knows that too. So what Illinois started doing, just like they did on their defensive packages, when they started bringing in certain defensive packages like Lynn Hart and James Williams and them, they're knowing now they're wanting to pull their hair back and go all out for the quarterback. So they might then change it to a run play because they're not big run stoppers, and vice versa. Same here. You bring in Ramir Johnson, and then they almost get into that pass mode. Yep, Nebraska's passing, which is good point is they don't always pass there because they run with Ramir. So I'd like to see Emmett in there get a little bit better, and Dante as well, a little better pass blocking, because I like to see him more on the field. I would have loved to seen him more in that Illinois game. He just has a way of bouncing out to the outside and breaking things that are not there that I've seen so far this year. And so I didn't like that we didn't get to see enough of him. I like Dante Dowdell. I think pounding him in there is great. And then in that third or fourth quarter, bringing in a fresh Emmett Johnson, man, I think that's a good key. And we've seen that in other games, and we didn't get to see it as well. And I guarantee a lot of that has to do because we basically had to go to the air raid during Illinois. So what are you going to do? You're going to have probably more Ramir in there and all that. And the same with the pass blocking. And if you go to the pass blocking, you see Gunner And Brock, Gunner's a redshirt freshman. Brock is a true freshman. You got Keelan Smith, a true freshman, before you get to Bryce, and Bryce is 74. So you could see, we're having better results with some of our freshmen. If I go to the defensive side, and it's almost the same. You got Ramir Stewart, a freshman. See, you got Derek Branch, and then you got Tommy Hill on your overall defensive side. And then you have Willis McGee. So you could see there's a lot of freshmen up here that are probably just out there. They're still learning, so they don't know everything yet. So they're just going out there on their raw talent that they've been doing and having fun, and probably don't feel that pressure yet because they're not up there. So it's little things I think that we have to get together. And so I don't think when it says, "Hey, should we panic?" No, I don't think we should panic. I don't think it's panic time. Is this going to be the last time we see maybe something this happen? Probably not. I don't see it being over overnight. And you almost had to expect it because we've yet to have a close game. You don't want a close game with UTEP or Northern Iowa, and you didn't even get it with Colorado. And I think emotion took over. We are not playing with that same emotion. I think we spent so much of it in that Colorado game. We haven't come out the same. Doesn't mean they don't want to play and they don't want to win. It's just hard when you come in there. I think Illinois came in there. Remember, Nebraska went up to Champaign last year and beat them in their own town. And you might have had the same thing here with Illinois as you had with Nebraska, Colorado. Now, we didn't make Illinois look as bad and mouth off like Colorado was doing to us last year. But you had a team that said, "Hey, we're going to come in here and show them. We want this game. We shouldn't have lost that game last year." And I tip my hat. Altmaier, that quarterback, I'm telling you right now, I think we affected Nebraska more than with our crowd. Well, I was at that game and we were loud. To me, it was loud. And Illinois didn't like it, didn't phase them a bit, didn't bother them a bit. And so they were ready for it. That's why I think they'll be ready for Penn State. Now, will they beat Penn State? I hope they do. But they have Penn State by 18, and there ain't no way. I can't say no way because I guess there is always a way, but I'd take Illinois plus 18. And I think Illinois can win that game. It's going to be tough, but that's, I think, why, Brett Bielema said, "Hey, that whiteout doesn't mean anything." They basically had a red out when Nebraska. You have that every game. Nebraska, that's just normal crowd. And I agree with it. So if that's not going to affect them, I don't think the Penn State game is. So the one thing about Purdue is kind of a get well game. And Purdue's given up a lot of rushing yards, but most of it's been to a running quarterback. They seem to struggle against that option read with the quarterback keeping the ball. So do we see some Harbor? I hope we do. You don't want to really take Dylan out of there. And I think you might see Dylan run a little more, but that's not Dylan's strength, and he's not very fast. Even if you fool him and Dylan keeps it and runs, he's just slow enough for them to recover and tackle him. You're going to probably get 5 or 6 yards. I think we need to see Harburg. If we get in there and game's a little closer than you think, we bring in Harburg and run some of them plays. That belly option, that would probably work perfect with Harburg. But run some of them read options with Harburg. Let him run a little more quarterback style. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean come in here and play, wildcat and let him go up the middle. I'm talking about let him run some quarterback. Run some quarterback and have him throw. You're talking about how much he's improved throwing the ball. They're going to come in, they're going to think, aha, they're running. But I still think Nebraska probably will win this game. And if I had to guess, I feel like they're going to probably fix a lot of their holes. And I think defensively, you're probably going to see some better coverage because it ain't all the players. So I feel like Nebraska will come out because I think Purdue's going to come out and do the same thing. They're going to try the same thing that kind of Northern Iowa tried to do and what Illinois did. And they're going to try to spread them out and probably try to run it. But I think Tony White now knowing and seeing and gotten some tape and saying, okay, this is what we need to do, because a lot of it's just teaching experience, teaching. And so I guarantee you that's being taught this week. So I expect them to do better in this situation. And I've heard it might be raining, windy. So I don't know how much the passing game. So it might be who does run the best. I want to give my edge to Nebraska. I feel like defensively, they're probably a little better. So I feel like this is going to be a game Nebraska's going to say, hey, we got a lot to fix. It's one of those kind of like after that Michigan game last year. So they're going to be determined to fix this. You could tell the players when you saw their press conferences was really upset how that game went, really disappointed. You wanted to see that. So I think Nebraska pulls this game out probably, if I had to guess, 35-10. That's going to be my prediction, 35-10. I don't think it's going to be that close. So I feel like we'll get back on the right track, if you know what I mean. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you guys don't mind, tell me what you think. Is this a game that you feel like Nebraska will get back together and get back on track? Will it be closer than you think? Will they have a good get well game on this one and beat them up? So what do you think about the rest of the season? You still think they could win 7 or 8 games, or are you more concerned about what you saw? Doesn't mean you can't be concerned, because like I said, it ain't going to be fixed overnight. But tell me what you think. If you don't mind, just tell me what you think below. And if you want to, you can just shoot me an email, jeff@bigredcountry.net. You need to ask anything, or you want to see something, or you want me to answer something on one of the videos, just reach out to me. I'll be glad to. And of course, like always, guys, you don't mind, please subscribe and like the video. It helps it get it out, puts it in a logarithm, gets it out to other Nebraska fans, college football fans, and then helps the video grow and the channel grow. I really appreciate that. And of course, like always, smash that like button. It's really appreciated. So guys, until the next video, go Big Red.